we're so used to taking action of doing something in our business, but sometimes some of the doing actually needs to be being. The action we need to take is to sit with ourselves and to allow ourselves to feel sadness. Like I told a client the other day, I'm like, maybe this is just the place where you just get to feel sad. Instead of just blowing by the sadness, give your sadness some airtime. Let your sadness actually be able to show up to the same party that your joy gets to show up to. Welcome back to the podcast. Today, I want to discuss how it's not just one thing. There's not any one thing. There's no magic one thing that we need to be working on in order to bring what we want to life. I really think that there are 4 areas that we need to be paying attention to giving our time to be developing and evolving in order to bring what we want to life. So let's talk about those 4 areas today. Let's dive in. So I want to talk about these 4 areas because as I was sitting on the hammock today, I was thinking about my health journey. And if any of you have been around here for a little while, you know that I have been on some discovery or some uncovering, however you want to say it, to really have my body to be in the most aligned feeling and optimum health. And what I recognized was there isn't just one specific thing that we needed to be doing. So I want to just name the 4 areas for you, and then I'm going to dive into each individual one and then leave you with where are you great in those areas, and then where are the areas that you may not be having as much attention being put towards right now, and where that might be where your growth is. So the first area is spiritually, right? There's always a spiritual understanding or meaning for why something is happening in our lives. So the second one is emotionally, right? What are we having and experiencing with our emotions that we are not processing and transforming in order to return back home to that natural state of who we are? The third one is the mindset. And then the fourth one is taking action. So when I always start with spiritually, right? Because I think everything happens internally. I think I was a person for a very long time who was of the fourth one, right? I was always the person that took action. I was very much in the masculine energy. I was going to make it happen. But as I have become more wise in my years on planet Earth, I have recognized that there is always a spiritual meaning for why we are experiencing something in our lives. And I think that we have to really, if we always look at it from that place and we always go, okay, what's the spiritual meaning here? What is God trying to teach me? And not from a punishment place, but just what did my soul come here to learn? And what does it need to transcend and transform and to develop in order to have what it is that I'm going after? If we always were to start there, I think that it just has us looking inwardly versus externally. So when you think about spirituality, when you think about your relationship with God, I'm not a religious person. I'm not going to be able to recite any Bible verses to you, but what I am is highly connected to God. I talk to God multiple times a day. I pray in my own way. So this isn't like, this is what I do, so you do this way. I'm just asking you to think about what is your spiritual practice? What is your relationship to God and the Creator? What is your, a lot of us, sometimes we say that we have faith, but when it really comes down to it, the actions that we take don't move from a place of faith. So what is your relationship with God? What is your spiritual practice? Where are you, if you were to look at those 4 areas, how connected are you to God, Source, the Creator, in moving, every day? In your business, are you asking for support and for God to show you the way, or are you trying to do more of that 3D action and pushing and forcing? So I think when you look at it from that place of like, what is the soul, because I always say that the lesson is going to continue to come and knock at your door and be there for you to learn until you have moved through it, right? I know that part of my soul came here to be empowered, to not people please. And I have recognized that in order for me to be where I am now, I have had to stop people pleasing. I've had to say no more. I've had to put myself And when I say above everyone else, I don't mean I'm better than anybody else. What I mean is that I have had to recognize that my time is worth and is very valuable. My ideas are valuable. Who I am, I'm deserving of living and having a life of what I want, right? I grew up more so of like, well, I'll just make sure everyone else feels okay, and then that'll make me feel okay, versus putting myself first and recognizing that. And this is true for everyone. Everyone needs to be moving from this place of like, I am the most important person. Not that I'm better than anybody else, not that I'm more important than anybody else, but when we move from the energy of I am so important, I am so valuable, we put ourselves first, and we spend our time and we invest our time differently. We take different action in our business. We don't tolerate certain things that we may have been tolerating all along. So think about spiritually for you, what did your soul come here to learn? Like, what was your soul curriculum or soul contract? Think about spiritually, where are the lessons that you are kind of like, I call it that spiral staircase. You're always learning it, just at a deeper level. So that's first and foremost. And what is your connection with God? Like, if we always start there, then we kind of work out. The second one is emotions, right? I think that emotions, like, those are our feelings. And I was someone who suppressed my feelings for so long. I stuffed them down. I overworked to compensate so I wouldn't have to feel. So if I look back on Erin, 7-10 years ago, I probably was very much so more in the taking action and the mindset, the spiritual and the emotions that didn't even have a place on the radar. So from an emotional standpoint, where are you giving, how are you processing your emotions on a daily or a weekly basis? Are you doing any type of emotional release therapy? Or, like I've talked about in previous podcasts, tapping? Or what is your way that you are able to process and release the emotions that you have felt throughout the week? The third one is mindset. And I think sometimes we're taught like, oh, if you just do this strategy or you just do this, it's like, that was the awareness that I had in the hammock this morning around my health, was there's not just one thing, right? When I started really honing in on, okay, I was gaining weight, that's a symptom, that's not a root cause. I was gaining weight. I was going towards and asking Alessandro, like, okay, we were working through like, what is the spiritual reason why I'm gaining weight? What am I carrying? Like, metaphorically speaking, right? Because there was that part of it. What am I carrying that I need to let go of? What is my body holding on to weight for because it doesn't feel safe? So that's what I mean when I talk about the spiritual perspective, is like there's always a spiritual meaning that's underneath, right? So once I worked through that, then it was also like, okay, well, how am I, from a mindset place, how am I speaking to myself? Am I speaking lovingly to my body? Am I speaking that from a place of health, from a place of wholeness already, from a place of already healed and it's already been done? Or am I looking at it from a place of what's wrong with me? Something's wrong. I can't figure this out. That's what I mean with mindset. With emotions, I was looking at it of like, okay, what emotions need to be released? What have I held in my body all of these years that I may not even know about? I'll put, the link in the show notes, but my chiropractor and emotional release therapist, I go to her every single week. We process those emotions that are coming up that are, I don't like the word of being trapped in your body. But there are emotions that sometimes stay stagnant in your body if you haven't paid attention to them. So what are we doing from an emotional standpoint to process and to release these emotions? Like I talked about the third pillar of like the mindset of like, how are we thinking? If we translate this to business, what are our actual thoughts around our business? What are our actual thoughts around our team and what we are creating? Are we speaking lovingly about our business, or are we thinking that it's a chore and that we feel like that we don't want to be doing some of this stuff? So you really have to hone in and like, where am I, really dialed in on some of these areas, and where am I not? And where do I need to maybe spend some more time in some of these other areas that I may not be giving as much attention to? And the fourth one is action. action. I think as entrepreneurs, it's super easy for us to take action. I think it makes us feel, we feel good. We feel accomplished when we take action. And what I have recognized in my own life and for clients of mine is some of the action actually needs to be more in the spiritual realm. Some of the action actually needs to be in the emotional realm, right? We're so used to taking action of doing something in our business, but sometimes some of the doing actually needs to be being. The action we need to take is to sit with ourselves and to allow ourselves to feel sadness. Like I told a client the other day, I'm like, maybe this is just the place where you just get to feel sad. Right? Instead of just blowing by the sadness, give your sadness some airtime. Let your sadness actually be able to show up to the same party that your joy gets to show up to. Like so often I think we're so much in our to-do list and what we need to be doing that we don't actually take a minute to think that, oh, some of my action taking might actually need to be taking no action. Right? Some of my action taking might need to be like, I need to go work with someone on a consistent basis with my emotions. Some of the action might actually need to be like, I need to trust God more and I need to pray more, and not pray of like, oh my gosh, God, please give me this. That's not what I'm talking about when I say pray. I mean prayer as in, thank you, God, for everything. Thank you for showing me. Show me where else I need to let go. Show me where else I need to trust. Like that is the action that we might need to be taking. So when I thought about, because I always translate and, I'm always thinking about, okay, how does this relate to business, or how does this relate to money, or how does this, like I'm always transferring knowledge or wisdom that I am receiving into how does this translate. When I thought about my health, I had done a lot of the spiritual work, right? What did I need to let go of? When I thought about the mindset, like I wasn't that person anymore that spoke poorly about her body. I wasn't saying that I was fat. I wasn't beating myself up. I wasn't doing any of those things. And, from the emotional, like I'd been working on my releasing emotions over the last year almost, I think. I mean, I'd always done tapping. I'd done other types of support for my emotional well-being. But I really think the work that I have done with Stormy over the last year has been exponential in my growth. And so the last part was like the action, right? It was, okay, who do I need to go see? What labs do I need to actually have drawn? Let me learn more about the body and how the liver works and how, the gallbladder and my adrenals and my kidneys and just all of that. Like that was I don't want to say the missing piece, but that was the area that I needed to spend more time in. And so when we translate this to business, I just want you to think about if you were to I don't want to say break down your business in 4 areas, but if you were to look at your business, where are you maybe spending too much time in, right? Are you someone who is an action taker, who is quick to make decisions, to not give yourself any time to have rest? Like those are typically the women that I work with because that was me. So those are typically the women that I help kind of slow down and tap back into the body, and to give yourself like some of the advising that I give clients is like, you need to actually go see an emotional release therapist. You don't actually need to schedule more, clients or, do more of that 3D work. So really I want to leave you with, think about where are those areas. How connected to you are you to God? How much are you entrusting and receiving in that feminine energy? And how much are you in that pushing and forcing? And there is this, I don't even know if it's a balance. Like the idea that comes to my mind is just this flow, right? Like you have to be in the masculine sometimes in your business. Like when you sit down and you look at your numbers, and you're talking to your bookkeeper, like that's very doing masculine energy. And then there's also the being held and supported, right? So where are you from a spiritual standpoint, maybe not giving enough airtime there? Maybe that's where your work is. Where are you when you're talking about your business? You're talking as if that's just fact. You're repeating things that happened maybe yesterday or the day before, and you're talking as if that's what the next 6 months or the year is going to be like for you. Where are you in your mindset? Are you so mindful of the words that you are using when you speak about yourself, when you speak about your capability, when you speak about your business and your team? Like, where is your mindset when it comes to that? From the emotional standpoint, right? How often are you giving yourself a hot second to just feel what needs to be felt? Are you someone who's always just kind of like me, who's blown by, the emotions and been like, okay, well, yep, don't really, what's feeling sadness actually going to help? It's like, well, it's going to be there regardless if you feel it or not. So my advice would be to like take the time to feel it. It's okay. Like, these are skill sets that we are developing so that as we grow, we are able to move through them. And not that we're trying to move through it in a quick way, but the more that you are well-versed in feeling your emotions, then it's easy for you to say, hey, I need the afternoon off because, I've had a really rough week, or whatever it might be. Like, you're able to advocate for yourself and your emotions when you are practiced in that. And what you're also teaching is your team to do the same. I think that we forget this as founders, as entrepreneurs, of like, oh, if we just need to get this done, we need to push through. What do you think that you are teaching your team to do? What do you think that when you bypass and you show up and you're exhausted, what do you think you're teaching your team to do? So really think about what are those areas. And then the last one is obviously the taking action. Is sometimes that might be the thing we actually need to do. Sometimes we might have gone so far over to the spiritual and the emotional side that we haven't taken enough action. Like when you look at, okay, if where I want to be, and I talked about the gap in the previous episode, but if where I am going and where I want to be, have I done everything in those 4 areas that I need to do? And I think this also, there's a place where we think and we have done that. And then we're like, okay, so why hasn't it shown up yet? And this is where we have to let go. This is where we have to trust God's timing. Like the how that it's going to show up, the when, the timeline, that's not our responsibility. So you have to almost move from those 4 areas. You've got to put the attention in those 4 areas, and then you just have to let go. You have to know that you have done everything that you need to do and that you are doing, right? And that it's going to happen when God decides that it's going to happen, versus, oh, I need to take more action. I need to keep pushing. It's not here yet, versus maybe the action is just to let go. So I'm going to leave you with thinking about, over the next week, journal on those 4 areas: spiritually, emotionally, your mindset, and also your taking action. And really get clear, really write down what is your spiritual practice. What have you been taking action on? Where are you afraid to take action? Look at, okay, what is your process for processing emotions? If you don't have a process, okay, start there. What do you want to start doing? Do you want to allow yourself, when it comes up, do you want to actually schedule to meet with someone on a consistent basis? Like, there has to be something that works for you, that feels good for you, in order to process and allow those emotions to move and through and transcend. So I'll leave you with that. There isn't one thing that we need to be doing. I think it's all those areas. And when we look at it from that place, I think it relieves a lot of the pressure, because I think in the business world, it's so much on strategy versus where am I spiritually? Where am I emotionally? Where am I in my mindset? And where am I needing to take action? Okay. I'll see you in the next episode.